Jonathan Pollard, Florida employment lawyer. I'm going to talk today about pregnancy discrimination. Shocking as it may seem, society today, and particularly American society, has a severe problem with discrimination against pregnant women. And that is particularly shocking to me because when you step back and think about it, all of us who are alive on this earth were born and came into being and existence by virtue of a pregnant woman, right? None of us would be here were it not for women carrying us in their bodies and giving birth to us. Two of the most miraculous, amazing, physically demanding things a human being in a human body can ever do. Carrying a child, nourishing a child, and giving birth to a child. And so one would think there would be a greater level of reverence and respect for pregnant women, for new mothers, for the miracle of carrying and giving birth to life, right, which perpetuates our existence on this planet for the entire species. One would think that this would be entitled to a certain amount of reverence and respect. But in Western society, and particularly in the American workforce, it is not. Pregnancy discrimination is real, and it happens far more often than most people recognize or are willing to admit. And I don't just say that anecdotally. From the standpoint of somebody who has heard a story or two or three or five or 10 or 20, I own a multi-million-dollar law firm based out of Fort Lauderdale with offices in Fort Lauderdale, Miami, and St. Louis. I have done this for the past 10 plus years. I've represented hundreds, if not more than 1,000 employees at this point. And I have seen countless instances of pregnancy discrimination. So I have enough in terms of data and metrics and statistics to know that it goes beyond just the anecdotal. It's not just the one or two off story of, oh, this terrible random thing happened. I know enough to call it a trend. Now, people can either accept that I am in a position where I'm capable of calling something a trend and saying, no, this isn't just one or two off random happenstance. Like, this is a societal problem and it's happening, right? There's a reason why Business Insider or whoever else is like, hey, JP, can you write an article for us on what you're seeing and what's trending and sort of what you think is the new direction, right? Why? Is it because I'm an unmitigated crazy person and a bald-headed jerk-faced meanie? No, probably not, right? It's because, one, I've got my finger on the pulse of what's happening, and two, I have the data, I have the statistics, the analytics, and I have a 10-plus year track record doing what I do, representing employees and doing a very good job of it, right? Anybody who wants, you can go look me up. So there's a problem with pregnancy discrimination. And I can just draw from my case files and give you shocking examples of women who were either star performers or superstar performers. Everything was just fine. Everything was gravy. Their performance was fantastic. They were getting promotions, raises, bonuses, special awards, accolades, you name it. And then all of the sudden at 7 months pregnant, right about 7 months pregnant, 7 to 8 months pregnant, it's like a switch got flipped. And all of a sudden, they went from being a star or superstar performer who had a virtually guaranteed future at the company, a bright future, all the opportunity in the world, to being told that their performance was magically hocus pocus, not up to par, right? We have had cases, I can even draw from my case files. We have had cases where a woman, let's take sales, okay? Sales is a really great market sector to draw these out of, because in sales, we frequently have the actual metrics, we have the actual data, the revenue, the hard numbers, where before her pregnancy or before she got significantly along in her pregnancy, a woman is top 10% in her company in this particular role, right? And the role is there are multiple people doing this in different regions throughout the country, but they have certain, performance levels and indicators. And when you measure it on an objective basis, she was top 10%. The company literally would issue quarterly rankings of the sales folks in this particular job function, and she was top 10%. So much so that she was asked not only to do her sales responsibility, but also to assist with managing another territory while the company looked for and hired a manager for that territory. But she got to be 7 months pregnant. That's what happened. Like, her performance didn't fall off. She didn't do anything wrong. She didn't miss any key targets or indicators. She was pregnant, and she got to be 7.5 months pregnant. And all of a sudden, she was laid off, right? Oh, part of a round of layoffs, right? We had to go through it, crunch the numbers, and sort of lay off the people who weren't working out. It was purely merit-based. Bullshit. Outright lie. I have countless examples of this. Woman who is promoted repeatedly, gets a performance review, absolutely knocks it out of the park, glowing feedback, gets a bonus, gets more responsibility, and then a month and a half later, when she starts showing and it's visibly obvious that she is pregnant, all of a sudden, without any explanation, without any meaningful, reasonable, factual basis, she is told that her performance is suffering, and within the course of the next month, she's ultimately terminated. And she's told she was terminated for her attitude and her performance. Again, bullshit. If it looks like a pig, if it sounds like a pig, if it smells like a pig, it's probably a pig. So pregnancy discrimination is a real thing. It's a serious problem in the American workforce. And we're not just talking about women who are being let go in a round of layoffs, women who have questionable job performance, low-end job performance, or middle of the pack. We are talking about women who are star and superstar performers being laid off and told, we had to cut some numbers, we had to find some money in the budget, the decision was merit-based. Or we're talking not a layoff, but an out of the blue termination, right? 7-8 months pregnant, out of the blue, goes from favorable performance reviews, favorable performance history, glowing feedback, to we don't like your attitude, you're missing the mark here, you're terminated, right? It is shocking that companies are so poorly run by such stupid people, and even with all their millions and billions of dollars, do not acquire the right legal counsel, because no credible, experienced lawyer in their right mind would allow a company to terminate a pregnant woman who has a stellar track record up until about 6, 7, 8 months pregnant. The timeline alone is a compelling indicator of discrimination. So, if you are sitting there, if you are going through this, first of all, I'm sorry that you have to go through this, right? You shouldn't have to. No woman should have to go through this in a civilized society, which we supposedly are, but we really are not, okay? You should be having the greatest experience of your life. You should be supported. You should be happy. You should be able to focus on your well-being, the well-being of the child growing inside of you, and not have to worry that, what just happened? I lost my job. What am I going to do? Right? Wholly improper, completely inappropriate, and definitely illegal. So what do you do? Okay? What do? You don't take it lying down. You don't take it lying down. You don't sign off on whatever the company gives you and wants you to sign without getting the advice of a lawyer. Now, I hate to be so blunt and brass tacks with you, but that's what I'm known for and why people trust me, because I don't sugarcoat anything. I don't need to. I don't need anyone. I don't need anything from anyone, right? I have no reason to sugarcoat anything. I'm just going to tell people how it is. And the harsh reality is, if you're in this situation and you're being offered some sort of severance package, you have to evaluate that. Every single week in a variety of different types of employment cases, whether it's discrimination, sexual harassment, age discrimination, unpaid wages, whatever, folks contact our office and they say, I need to know, should I sign this severance agreement? Well, folks, I hate to break it to you, but that is a decision that you have to make for yourself. Okay? If you're being offered $20,000 in a severance package, you have to decide whether or not you need that money and whether or not you can reasonably put that money at risk. Because if you are offered, say, $20,000 in severance and you don't sign it and you don't take the money, there's no guarantee that you'll get anything. Is there a chance you could get that 20,000? Is there a chance you could get less? Is there a chance you could get more? Is there a chance you could get a lot more? Absolutely. Those are all possibilities. But it's not my position, and I don't have the facts of your life and your situation to advise you on whether or not you take that money. The first threshold question is, do you need the money? And if you desperately need the money and you can't live without it, then you got to take the money. But if you're in a situation where you were pregnant or you are pregnant and you were terminated in the middle of your pregnancy, or God forbid, late in your pregnancy, or you were terminated when you indicated you were going to take leave, FMLA leave, Family and Medical Leave Act leave during your pregnancy, or some other leave that you were entitled to or granted as part of a contract. If you were terminated in these circumstances, you very likely have a claim for pregnancy discrimination. And if you're being offered a severance package or severance agreement, no, I'm not going to talk to you personally. My office gets hundreds of phone calls and emails. I don't spend my day talking to everybody who calls on the phone. That's just not realistic. Let's be real, right? Let's be real and logical and analytical about the world. It is not my job to play nursemaid to the world, okay? I used to do that. I don't do it anymore. It burned me out, right? I help the people I can help. I solve the problems I can solve. And in this context, I'm telling you, if you're being offered severance, you have to evaluate whether or not it's a meaningful amount of money for you and whether or not you truly need that money. And if you need the money, the answer is already made up for you. But if you say to yourself, either one, I don't need the money, or the money would be nice, but it's not that much money. It's not so much money that I'm afraid to risk it based on what just happened. Well, then you can evaluate your legal options. But in terms of our firm and in terms of working with me and with us, I just have to be blunt about it. We get hundreds of inquiries every week. So we are picking and choosing the cases that we want to pursue. When it comes to pregnancy discrimination, what am I looking for? I'll tell you. 1, documented history of good job performance. That's one. And when I say documented, is it helpful if it's a formal review, an annual review, a semi-annual review, something like that, yeah, it's very helpful if you have a formal review that is positive, that is favorable. It's going to be the most official, it's going to be the most thorough. But it's also helpful if you have something in writing, text message, email, some type of documentation praising your job performance, basically telling you, hey, you're doing great work, you're knocking it out of the park, some type of documentary evidence. Documentary evidence doesn't have to be formal or official. It can be an email, it can be a text message, it can be anything in writing, right? It's something, it's a document that we can point to and say, see, her performance was outstanding when all of these problems started to transpire. So we're looking for something in writing that's going to demonstrate that your job performance was not just adequate, but in fact exceeded the standards. Is it possible you could still have a pregnancy discrimination case if your performance was just mediocre or even a bit subpar? You might have a pregnancy discrimination case, but not one that is strong enough for us to get involved with. So we're looking for folks who have a documented history of strong job performance, okay? And the closer temporal proximity, right, the timeline, the closer in timing the positive performance review is with the termination, the stronger the case. So we're really looking for situations in which a woman was given positive feedback on her job performance, gets pregnant or starts showing, and within a period of, 6 months or so, as her pregnancy goes along, all of the sudden, magic, wouldn't you know it, her performance reviews start to decline. That's really the textbook situation that we're looking for. Number two, we're looking for what's called legally a materially adverse employment decision. So to translate that, there needs to be something that in real world terms impacted your job. So it's not somebody was mean to you, somebody gave you negative feedback, people were being unfair, none of that sort of stuff. I'm talking about you were either demoted, your salary was cut, your wages were cut, you were reassigned to an unfavorable territory, or the strongest variant here is you were outright terminated. That's really what we're looking for. We're looking for strong, documented history of job performance, pregnancy, and in about a 6-month window of time, going from favorable feedback on job performance to negative feedback to the company actually taking an adverse action against you, which the strongest cases involve outright termination. But I'll also pursue cases that involve demotion, reduction in salary or compensations, or reassignment to a less favorable position, territory, role, etc. That's what we're looking for. If you have those things, if those buckets check out for you, then you are welcome to contact our office, and we'd be happy to evaluate the case and let you know what we think in terms of the strength of your possible pregnancy discrimination case. Just bear in mind that, one, if you were pregnant and if you were terminated when you were pregnant, given American society, given the sort of nature of corporate America and how these companies operate, if you are a pregnant woman and you were terminated while you are pregnant, you most certainly should contact a lawyer. Whether you love me or hate me, whether you contact me or not, if you're a pregnant woman and you get terminated, you should talk to a lawyer, because pregnancy discrimination is real and it is far more common and far more widespread than most people are willing to admit. Jonathan Pollard, Florida employment lawyer. If you would like us to evaluate a possible case for you, please feel free to call our office. A member of our team would be happy to talk. Take care. Have a good day. Bye-bye.